Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary, and today we're going to be painting this cute little gingerbread house. Turn it all around so you can see the back and the front and the sides. So I will walk you through the steps that I went through in painting this house. Now, most of you who are with the libraries have picked up the kits, and the only thing that you really need other than what's in the kits is a water bowl. I don't believe you're going to need a palette because you have your paints in those strips that I gave you, and a piece of paper toweling or a piece of denim is very good for doing dry brushing, and your brushes. Now, you can use any brushes that you have. I, in particular, have a dry brushing brush, but if you don't have one, you could probably do it with these other brushes also. So we will adapt anything that you have to painting this item. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with white on the roof. As you can see, the roof has some green in the crevices, but I put the green on first. Not starting with white on the roof, I made a mistake. We put the green on first, that's back here, and then I dry brush the white over it. And the same thing on the house itself. We're going to be putting the brown that I gave you on the house, and then very lightly put a little drop of white in your brush and get a little bit of shading, a little bit of texture into the house. Now, in the house, the way it comes, they give you a little warning paper to tell you not to leave a candle unattended. I love these fairy lights inside all these pieces that light up. Look how great it lights it up. Okay, and what's nice about the fairy light, I mean, you could use a tea light candle, but what's nice about the fairy lights is you can bend them, and if it's a tall piece, and you could push them up higher inside of the item. I'll leave them on now so that you could see the piece, okay? All right, now, I didn't paint inside. If you want to wait until the end to see what kind of paint you have left over, depending on how much you use, you can put some paint on the inside. But as you can see, the fairy lights or any light you use shines up yellow, so the inside doesn't really look white when it's lit. Okay, so let's start with the light green, and we'll put the light green on the roof of the house. And if it gets on here, it's okay, but you don't have to necessarily paint that area. So I'm going to be using my round brush, and nice and smooth, and just make sure you pull it out of the crevices. You don't want puddles. If you pull your paint out, the puddles, if you don't pull your paint out, the puddles will stay wet for a long time. And then when you dry brush, anything that's uneven, the dry brushing picks up. So nice and even, nice and smooth. As you can see, I'm going under each little curve of the house roof. Pull it down, go in a little circle underneath all those eaves or shingles or whatever they are. And I go back and I smooth it out. Now, if you smooth it out, it dries almost immediately. I put a little bit in my brush, and then I pull it out as far as it will go before I dip for more. And as you can see, this light green gives you pretty good coverage. Nice and smooth. Got a little bit of garbage in there. I don't know if that's a little hole. Okay, and then I went around onto that little eave area in the front here. That also gets the green. And then I also did it on the back, and I left it. If you want to, you can dry brush the white on that, but I didn't. I just left that part in the green in the back. So the brown will probably cover much better over the green than the opposite way, so that's why I do the lighter colors first and the darker color after that. And when we do the brown, we're going to put it on everything, and then put the detail colors right over the brown. So I try to be a little careful on this, but I don't, I'm not perfect, because I believe the brown is going to be covering that really well. So under that eave, you also have under these little scallops on this side. And as you can see, dry. If you pull that out properly, it dries immediately. But I don't want ridges, and now when I do the edges, my excess paint overlaps onto the top of the house. I go back and pull it so that I don't have uneven paint on there. Because like I said, when you dry brush, the dry brushing picks up the raised area, so it will accent your unevenness. So Now do the back. Nice and smooth. So you see this? I don't know if you could see the lines that I have in there. I don't want those lines because even though I'm not going to dry brush that area, if you are dry brushing, the dry brushing will pick up that raised design, that raised paint on there. It will accent it even more. So we don't want that. Scoop across and try to get as straight a line as you can. I did that with one felt swoop just by laying the brush down, flattening it, and pulling it across. Then go back and smooth it. Okay, now I'm going to be doing the other side. Wiggle under these little candies on the top and then pull down. I try to get under the shingles first and then pull it out and to make it even. I think my brush was cleaned very well last time. Getting some little dirt in there. Just pick it off with my finger. That might be in the palette also. I need a drop more of the green. But you should have plenty because I didn't even use a whole well in my palette. As long as you pull your paint out and you don't leave puddles, you should have plenty of paint. Okay, so I've got that part done. I'm going to go under the eaves here in the front. As you can see, I'm not really being that neat with that. I will be neat with the brown, I have no choice, but with the green, I'm not worrying about it because the brown will go over it. Okay, and then I just have to get under these little scallops on the side, and the whole roof will be done. And we'll let that dry for a while, and we'll paint the brown on the house next. So while this is drying, we don't want to dry brush over something that's still wet. I'm just going to go back and make sure I have it nice down to the edge. Okay, and when you wash your brush, you don't bang it in the bottom of the bowl, you swish it. Never bang your brush down because that's why the hairs spread out. Always try to wipe it, wash it, and dry it in the shape of the brush. So do that, and then when I dry it, I roll it to try to keep the point in the brush. This one has lost its point already, but for a good brush, you want to make sure that you clean it properly. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing the brown. Brown. Where is my brown? Oh, there it is. Okay, this is called Medium Mocha, and it's Mako's Softy Acrylics. Today we're going to be using some Gair Party Paints. We're using Mako Acrylics, and then we're using some Duncan, which has now been bought out by Mako, so they will be produced by Mako. And we're using Duncan Sparklers, which is a paint on glitter, and then Duncan Glittering No Fire Snow. It's snow that has the glitter in it already, and that's what's dripped down on the house. Okay, but we'll do the brown first. Now, when I did the brown, I went right over everything. I mean, you don't have to do the door if you don't want, but all this little detail, a lot easier just to go right over it. And I'm going to use a little smaller brush to get up into the peak of the house first, and to do my edging. Most times, excuse me, when I paint, I do a base coat entirely on the piece, and that eliminates having to butt colors up against each other. But there are certain times where that just doesn't work. See, I just used a little brush just to get up into that peak. I'm not going to do the middle because I'll use the bigger brush to do that. But to do my edging, I'm using the smaller brush. See, and what I do is I put the brush down and I flatten it, and that gives me a nice straight edge. Smooth it out, make sure there's no ridges in the paint. And do the other side. And where I've gone out of the lines with the green, the brown goes right over it without a problem. Okay, so I did all those edges, and I'm going to do the same thing around the sides, under the scallops. Use the smaller brush. Okay, see what I'm doing there? It's hard to aim it towards you so you can see what I'm doing and paint at the same time, so bear with me. Can't paint blind. Okay, I got under the scallops, and I did two sides. I'm going to go on to the other side, do under the scallops on this side. And then I believe the whole back is, the back across under the green and all the way down. And then don't forget the bottom. That's one of my pet peeves, and a lot of my students know that. I always tell them you have to paint bottoms. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I had someone go to enter a piece into competition years ago, and the bottom wasn't painted, and they wouldn't accept it. And they said, "Where do you go to ceramics that they made you get away with that?" And I hadn't seen it before she went to enter it, so I said to her, "I hope you told them that you didn't do it by me, you know, because it's a reflection on me." So a piece should always be completely painted. Now the inside, that's another story. You don't always have to paint insides, but bottoms necessarily, they have to be painted. But it's your piece. You may say, "I'm going to put peel and stick felt on it," something, but the proper way is to paint the bottom. I don't know if you could see what I'm doing here. Just lay that brush flat. If you lay that brush flat down, always brace your arm. Don't ever work up in the air like this because your hand will shake. Put enough paint in the brush, lay it down, and then just scoop it across like so. And that gives you a nice edge. So now I'm going to switch to my bigger brush. I'm switching this one in the water. And I'm going to switch to the bigger brush that I was using before. I'm doing this inner rim of the opening in the back, so it looks finished. And I'm also going to switch to the bottom right now so that I give that a couple of minutes to dry while I'm painting the sides. It's a good idea to always do the bottoms first. You should have done that in the first place. Do the bottom first, and while that's drying, you could be doing a little bit on the sides, and then you'll be able to stand it up. Make sure you pull it out, and the paint will dry very fast. Okay, so now I'm going to paint the sides while that's drying. I'll be doing the sides here. And I'm going over everything. I'm going over where the candies are. Don't forget to get in the windows. The inside of the cut part of the window, you want to make sure you get that. You don't want to see white spots in there. And what you should do is once you do it and you finish painting the brown, turn it upside down and in different directions because you will see the inner part of the window that you missed, that you think you got. But you have to turn it this way and this way and this way, and then you make sure that you get good coverage. Now this is a perfect example of me doing a base coat and not worrying about the other colors. And the other colors can go on top. It's a lot easier. I mean, to try to go around all these little circles, these little candies and everything, it's just much easier just to put the color all over, the brown all over, and put the other colors on top. See, and my brown is dry already. Okay? I'll just hit some of the areas on the side here. But it's pretty much dry. So Always go back and just keep overlapping. I have pretty good coverage with one coat on this. Everybody's hand is different, so you don't know if you're going to need one coat or two coats, but mine, the one coat pretty much covered the whole thing. Now I'll go back to this side. And when I do those candies, I go in the direction that the lines in between each candy go. So I'm going down here, I'm going across here, I'm going across here and down here. If you go the opposite way, it doesn't get into the crevices as easily. So I go in those different directions and then wiggle in those windows. And turn it upside down and you'll see the white spots that you've missed. Oops, I almost tipped into the green. Okay, so now we just have to do the front. You don't have to do the door because the door is pretty solid, and the steps. And the green on the sides of the door. So I'm not worrying if it gets on there. As you can see, it's on the pole there, but I'm not going to do it completely because that's pretty solid coverage when I painted the red and the green there. But with the candies, I'll show you how I did those. And we could put the colors, the red and the green, right over the brown. And that eliminates you having a lot of white spots, because if you try to butt colors up against each other, it's so much more difficult to get good coverage. Just get a little drop more paint. These are water-based acrylics. They do come out of your clothes if you use a spot cleaner immediately. I've gotten them out, but if you let them sit for any length of time, they're a lot harder to get out. They are water-based. They're perfectly non-toxic. See, now here I'm turning this over because I could see all the white spots I've missed in the windows, all different directions. Okay, and on this top I did that. I'm going to put the brown over this top section, these three little oval areas above the door. I'm putting the brown on that because I could see that I put the colors over it. Okay, so now, you can be more perfect with yours and go back and make sure that you have good coverage. All right, I'm not going to, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to wash this brush out, but if this is the only brush that you have, don't wash it. Take out the brown out of your brush on the paper towel. Wipe out as much as you can without washing it. We don't want a wet brush. Okay, then pick up a little bit of white in your brush, because we'll do the white dry brushing on the roof and a little bit on the house. But pick up a little bit of white in your brush, and I mean a little. Do you see that little tiny bit? And blend it into the hairs of the brush. You want the brown and the white together in your brush. And then we're going to very, very gently dust some onto the background of the house, the flat part of the house. Now this is not as easy if you don't know how to dry brush, and a lot of people put way too much paint in their brush. If you do, you just go back with the brown and start again. Now this is nothing in the brush, nothing, nothing, nothing in the brush. And I just keep going over it because even though there's nothing in the brush, you do eventually see it. And I know it's hard for you to see, but can you see the contrast between this and this? There's a little dust in there. Now again, I'm going to pick up a little dot of white. Now, each time I put the white in the brush, the brown is going to get lighter. So if I need a little brown, I'll put that in also. I'm going to do this side now. See, now I started out, I have a little bit too much in my brush. You really need nothing. I'm really taking it out of the brush. I have a lot on here, and I don't think I'm going to like it, so I would probably go back with the brown. I'm going to pick up a little dot of brown in the brush. Take that out and go back over that. So I think it was a little bit too much white in the brush. You can skip this part if you don't want to. You can leave the house just in the brown that it is. I just keep playing with it, keep blending it. Can you see that? All right, that's a lot lighter than that side, so I'll go over this side again. You have to play with it, but I didn't even put more paint in the brush. When you think there's nothing in the brush, there is paint in the brush. I was once told that true dry brushing, you actually see a powder forming. And this is really a dry brushing brush. I think these are called, are they ox hair? Are they hog hair? Amazon has them. They're very stiff. They're similar to stencil brushes, but stencil brushes are flat across the top. You don't want a brush that's flat across the top. You want something with a point. And those are stiffer. Okay, so again, I'm going to do the front of the house. I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and a little drop of white. A little more brown because there was too much white in my brush. Really take it out and do some of this area in the front of the house. Again, I'm going to show you. Can you see that little bit I just did right there? It's hard to see, but you see the difference between that side and that side? There is a difference. But if you find it too challenging, like I said, you don't have to do that part. It's a good practice for dry brushing, though, because you really have to take everything out of the brush. On a flat surface, it's very difficult to dry brush because there's no raised area. Like if you were dry brushing here, see what I just did on that? It's so much easier because you just go across the grain and you just hit the raised areas. But when you're doing it on a flat surface, it's a lot more difficult. Now, I'm not going to be perfect now, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to go to the white. Now, when we do the white, you probably will have to wash your brush out, and you could pause the video unless you have another brush, and make sure your brush is perfectly dry. Your brush has to be dry to do this. So I'm taking my dry brushing brush and putting a little in and taking it out. Now you can keep a little more in your brush on this because you want a white roof. Now I'm going down, but I always blend it into the hairs of the brush. But it's like you see here how much more I have on because I do want a white roof. But if you like it with more green in it, you can leave it that way. This is your piece, and when you get the roof the way you like it, you leave it. I really wanted a white roof. So I'm going across also. But the whole thing is not to fill in under the eaves. You want the green to show in those crevices. I'm going to switch to the other side to give that a minute to dry, because if you keep going over an area over and over, your brush eventually is getting wet because it's picking up moisture from the paint, and it can start lifting the color that you're putting on, and then you really need to let it dry. So I'm going to go on to this side. I'll switch back and forth so that I get some drying time. And I use the side of the brush to dry brush. I don't do point in, always flat side of the brush. You see that? In slow motion. And again, if you make a blob and you have too much paint in the brush, if you can pull it out, you can try to pull it out. You're also going to be doing a very white roof, so you can leave it. But if it does it in the crevices, just go back and put the green on and let it dry very well before you go back and try to dry brush it again. And I'm also going to do some under the little scallops over here. Just whatever I can get at. Because I'm going to be putting the snow there, so really don't have to get it perfect. But in case the snow doesn't cover completely, I still put the white on the edges. I put a little more paint in the brush to get the white on the edges. See how much heavier that is there? Because it's hard to get underneath. You might have to do a lot of touch-up back and forth. If you get white onto the brown now, you have to go back and touch up the brown. But take your time. There's no rush. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the other side again. I gave that a few minutes to dry, or a minute. And you might say, why not just paint it? If you paint it, you're not going to get that look, because even though I'm very, very white on here, I have green underneath each of those scallops. Now I'm kind of doing each scallop almost individually, just on the raised side. And as long as there's nothing in my brush, I'm not filling in underneath where the green is. See that? Much whiter, right? Let me do this one again. All right, I'm going to stop on this because you can take it as far as you want. Now, see the difference between this one and this one? This one has a lot more green in it. This has a lot more white. So you could go as far as you want with it. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the red and the green on the door and the columns. The dots are going to be done with an eraser. I don't know if I put on the directions. You should have a pencil with a decent eraser because the dots are done with an eraser. On the top here, and on the windows. Okay, but first we'll have to paint the solid areas. So I'm going to paint the red first, and then we need a nice fine small brush. And let's see, I have a couple of different brushes here. I'll paint the door first. And the door is just painted solid. And again, don't forget to get into those windows. Oops, my piece of paper is in there. I was painting the piece of paper. I think I picked up, all right, barnyard. Thought it was a different red. Might be a different red that you have. I think I gave you the dark burgundy red. This one has a little brighter red on it. No right or wrong. If you have your own acrylics, you can change colors. You can get acrylics in Michael's. I'm painting inside those windows of the door. And I'm going to do the steps also. Okay. Now this up here, I just put the red on top of that. So these little sections here I did red also. Okay, and nothing else has to be painted in the red, just the door and the steps. Okay, and then we'll paint the green on the columns, and that would be the 4 columns on the sides in the front of the house and the 2 on the sides of the window. I'm sorry, of the door. Swish my brush, dry it out. I think I'm going to take an even smaller brush now, a very tiny brush to do the green. This is probably the most challenging part of doing this, is doing these side pieces. So you don't have to do this while you're watching me. This is a little time consuming because you want to be neat. I'll paint one so you can see. You might need 2 coats on these also. So do 1 coat on each of them and then go back. You should have drying time in between, and then you can go back and do the second coat. This is why I base coat everything in a color so that we don't have to do this individual painting. But on this one, we didn't have a choice. Okay, it gives you an idea. All right, so you're going to do the sides here of the door and the 4 on the corners of the house. I'll do one on the door also so you can see that. I put a little extra paint in my brush because it's a little brush, and that allows me to do the edging in one fell swoop almost. And I can, if there's enough paint on the brush, I can go straight down like so and get a decent line. Okay? All right, so that's that. Now, where are we? So, now when you do dots take a very long time to dry. So I would do them individually. Like if you're going to do the roof and let them dry before you go do them on the windows. All right, because they do take a long time to dry, and if you put your hand in them, which I do many times, I smear them. Oh, up here you have to paint. Let's paint a few up here. I'll paint I started with the red on the front of the house, so I'll start with the red here. So I do my edging with a small brush, and then I pull it toward the middle. I go around, do the edges. Okay, did one. Now I'll do one in green. Actually, you probably should do every other one in the red, let it dry a couple of minutes, and then go back and do the green so that you don't pull one color into the other. Of course, I'm just going to show you how to do the second one. I'm not waiting for it to dry, but you have that time to do that. Because when you're edging, you're definitely going to pull one color into the other. Okay. And, you know, if one color doesn't cover another, you just go back and forth and touch up. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to show you, I'm going to do the white lines first. And those are like little comma strokes. And you could just do dots if you want. I just changed it up a little bit and just did angled lines. So I put my brush down. I have a round brush. Put my brush down and went on an angle, almost like I wanted it to be a stripe. I think I had 3 on those. Well, this one I have 2 on because I made them thicker. No right or wrong. I put a little bit of puddle on the end of the brush, lay it down, and pull it. And if you notice, I lean my pinky, I lean my hand. It's hard to work up in the air. Since I did 3, I have to go back and put one there. Okay? Little stripes. And they're not perfect, but it just gives it a little different look. Now, with the eraser, okay, this is important. When you do these dots on the roof, don't try to do them in the crevice right up to the eave because my dots were all very uneven. If you see there, and on this one, I dropped it down a little bit. You see there's a little space above it? All right, on this side, I tried to get them right up in that arch, and it was getting very messy. So I'll start with a red dot and put it here. Now I'm going to drop down. Okay, see that dot? All right. Of course, I probably should have done it on the top one. And you try to do like every other one. So this is in the palette, I pick up with the pencil eraser. And it does a little bigger dot than the back end of a brush. Yeah, if you do it right up and you hit the edge of the eaves, it doesn't make a round circle. And I stagger them. So I did two red. There'll be one green there, be one green here. So then I'm going to be let me go to the green and see how this is going to look. Just clean the eraser. Because it doesn't work out perfectly. There we go. Just remember to stay below and don't have your pencil eraser hit the bottom arch, the bottom curve of these shingles. All right, so now this one I'll do one in the middle. And then I'll go back and do a red one here. And I dip, for every dot I dip, and a red one there. Okay, so now I'm going to do a green one here and a green one here and a red one here and a red one here. And I'm really not cleaning the eraser perfectly. I just kind of keep the paper towel here and I just keep wiping it on the paper towel. See where my pinky is, how I'm putting it down to brace myself? That dot wasn't big enough, so I'm going to go back in and do another dot. Okay, there we go. And stagger them. Now, with the windows, you do exactly the same thing, but you do it in white and red. The windows and the bottom, I did white and red. Another thing I did green is this little piece in between the window. I'll do that while this is drying. And the same thing on the sides. The crisscrosses in the windows are green. And I don't go all the way in. I just do that little front piece nice and gently, and the same thing on the sides. So the brown is still showing inside the window. So now see, this is what I mean about not being able to touch it anywhere. Okay, I didn't do, if you see there's still brown underneath that window, but I did that. And then the same thing with this piece up here. I did this in red. So I'll go back and we'll do that area in the red. Now I notice that I have brown spots showing on these, a curved window at the top, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of my brown and just go in there and touch that up. So I don't want to see white spots. Okay, and I did the red up there. Because the rest is done with the eraser of the pencil. I must have put my hand in one of the dots because I have green on me. But really seriously, let it dry well. I'm going to be doing the white now on the side windows here, and you just do every other one. I dip almost every time. Okay, here you go. And I think I did the same thing on the front. I did red and white on all of these windows, I believe. White, white. Okay, there's white. And then you do the same thing on those windows too. Okay. Then Why do I have green all over my fingers? What's wet? Okay, so at the top here I also did white. Let me do that too, and I started with the corner. And this is very wet, so if I was you, I would just shut the video off and go back to it and let those really dry in between, because you will be smearing them. But the pencil eraser works very well. Okay, I got all my white ones in. And you're going to be doing the same thing across the bottom, the white and the red across the bottom. So I'll go to my side windows now and I'll do the red. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Put a little bit more red out. And I'll do the red. On the arched window at the top I did green, so I'll finish the red on the bottom windows. If you don't dip for every dot, your dot gets smaller each time you do it. Okay, and I'll go back and I'll do the green dot in between the curved window at the top, in between the white. If you find your dots are dripping because your paint's a little thin, lay it down if you can. That's why it's good to do each section at a time. All right, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Looks funny because I don't have the other column done. And then you do across the bottom, okay? And you could do a little, I believe I did a green doorknob or a white doorknob. And that you could just do with a toothpick, unless you have a point on a very small brush like so. Whoop, I just stuck my finger in the white paint. That's why I can't stress enough letting it dry. Okay, just put a little doorknob on there. You can do it whatever color you'd like. And then you can seal it. You can seal the piece with a paint-on sealer. It comes in matte or gloss, the paint-on sealers. And I normally seal it before I do the glitter and the snow, but you don't have to. I've also sprayed over the glitter and the snow, and I haven't had a problem. They say it might dull it a little bit. I know someone who says she always sprays over the snow and the glitter. It holds it in place better. This glitter I gave you is a liquid glitter, so it's much easier to work with than painting glue and sprinkling glitter. I mean, that's a beautiful look, but for something like this, you don't need that. And you just paint this on. I'll paint a little bit so you can see it, but my dots are so wet that I don't even think I can do that yet. You can put the glitter wherever you'd like. I have it on the balls on the top, the candies, and I did it on the entire roof. Okay, and I didn't do it on the house, but your choice. And you just paint it. It goes on white, especially if you're heavy. Don't be too heavy, just pull it out. And when it dries, you don't see the white anymore. I'll just do these two balls here so you can see how it goes on. See, it goes on. It looks shiny. It'll be nice and glittery after it dries. And then I paint it on the roof, on the white part of the roof, over the little dots, over the green and the red dots. I didn't do the back of the roof with the glitter, but it's your piece. So if you have enough glitter, you can do whatever you want with it. All right, now the snow. Let me show you how to put the snow on. This snow has the glitter in it, but when it dries, if you feel that it's not enough glitter, you can go back and put that glitter that I just put on the top here. You can put even more on the snow. So what I try to do with the snow is I try to hang it down so it looks like icicles. So I put it on like so, just blob it on, and then pull it down. Can you see what I did there? Okay, put it on thick. Put on a big thick piece, like so. See how thick that is there? And then pull it. And you could, the other thing you can do is you can also wait for it to dry and go back and do it again. But if you pull it, look how I was able to drop that down. See that? And that's all you're doing with the snow. Now I only did the snow on these eaves of the roof and along the scallops. Put it on thick. The glitter is wet, so now I have that on my hands along with everything else. Put it on thick and try to hang it down if you can. Can you see it's hanging just a little bit there? All right, that's all you're doing. Just put it on nice and heavy and have it look like it's the snow is melting. I especially like it on the front there. All right, and you don't have to seal the snow. So if you seal your piece before you do the snow and the glitter, there's no reason to have to seal the glitter or the snow because they're self-sealing. All right, and if you think it's not shiny enough, you can put the glitter over the snow also, the paint-on glitter, the other one that I gave you that I wrote glitter on the top of the bottle. So that's about it. I believe that that's everything that I did on this piece. You can sign it, date it on the bottom if you'd like. I gave you a gingerbread. I was able to get a couple of gingerbreads in the beginning, but now I wasn't able to find them anymore. So you have a gingerbread and a candy cane that you can glue on either side, and you will have a bow. Put it where you'd like. You can put the bow on the door. Looks nice too, down on the bottom. The gingerbreads, I think, are the gingerbread and the candy cane are the best on the front because you really don't look at the side as much as you do the front of the piece. But just put them wherever you'd like. It's your piece, and you have to be happy with it. So that's it. I believe that that's it for now. I will be doing another video on the gnome with the Christmas tree on his head, and because I know a lot of you that picked up the gingerbreads were doing both, so I will get to that video next. But have great holidays. Thank you all so much for taking this class and for purchasing these things from me. I really appreciate it, and I thank you so much. So have a great holiday. Bye.